This is the X carriage top piece, step 2. In step 1 we attached 4 M4 16 screws with the bearings, and now the second step is actually to attach it to the lower part of the carriage. It goes on like this. You'll see there's one angled side and one squared off side. You want to put the squared off side next to the squared off side, and it fits kind of like that. Now, one thing is that the top part needs a nut in this hole and in this hole. This is the bottom piece, but there's a hole right through there, and that's going to need a nut. So right in there, in the squared off side, and that's really hard to get to. So and these nuts, they're trapped, but they kind of fall out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an extra M4, and I'm going to thread it on there. I'm just going to leave it. And what happens is that they stay for a little bit. If you take this screw out and tip it over, it's not going to fall out immediately, but if you bang it around, it could fall out. So what I'm going to do is just thread a screw in there and leave it until I need to access that nut, and then I'll be able to take it out, put another one right in. When you connect the two, you need another one in here, but that's pretty easy to get to when these parts go together like this. Easy access to that. When these go together, there's going to be 6 screws, 3 on this side, 3 on this side, and then 4 coming through here. So you're going to need nuts inside right here. And I'm using regular nuts, not nylock, because of the holes. And what I'm going to do is get those in there. And I'm just using the screw as a guide to get the nut in there flat, because if you don't do that, they tend to roll around and fall out like that. One of the things when you put these together is that you need to make sure that the spacing is correct for your M8 rod, because your M8 rod slides all up and down these bearings. This track of bearings right in here. So when you get these together, you're going to need a M8 or M4 by 16 washer, and then a bottom washer, and probably a nylock nut. I'm just going to use a regular nut for right now, because these may have to come off. You may have to tension them to make sure the M8 rod gets through. Now, if you when you're testing your rod, if your pieces aren't right, you might need a washer right here where these two joints meet. Slide a washer, thread it through that screw, and it'll give it a little bit more space. I think mine might need that. So I'm putting regular washers on, but you probably want to use nylocks. Make sure that these don't come off with the amount of wear and tear. So kind of test it. You take your M8 rod, one of them. You want to wipe the grease from the factory that comes off, because you don't want that grease touching your plastic parts. We're going to use a different grease later, but right now you just slide that in. And oh, can't do it because of my test nut fell down, or my little safety screw. And you want to make sure it glides, but that it's not too tight. And mine just glides. I think that's good. See, you can just do it with one finger. Don't need too much force. Might be a little tight, but you just sort of back off these screws a little bit. That's why I'm not using nylocks right now. I'm going to play with it a little bit, make sure when I get all 6 in that it works. And that's step 2 for the top part of the X-axis. This is the last optional step if you have for the X X-axis carriage, if you have opto end stops, I don't know if you can see through this bag, but they're little circuit boards with two little black pieces. Right? Well, there's two little black pieces that you need a flag to fit in there to break the infrared beam. So I eyeballed this piece out of soda can. Really eyeballed it. I don't have tin snips, so I just used wire cutters, just kind of tore it, and then I wrapped it all in tape so that it wouldn't cut me and so that it would absorb the infrared. Now it doesn't actually, so it goes, if you got these two pieces, they're off center, it goes on the, I guess you would say the top part, the top corner screw that's closer to these pieces that are offset. And mine really is eyeballed. It doesn't fit. So I'm just going to screw it in there anyways and hope that it works. I don't really know how this is going to behave, but we will find out. I'm going to get this all through. The tape is sort of catching on the thread, so I'm going to push this all the way through. Now, lucky for me, this side is a little bit tight, so I don't really need the I don't really need a lot of threads. In fact, I'm gonna take this washer off. I don't think you need a washer if you got this soda can. Opto end flag. So now the theory is one of these end stops going to be mounted over on the frame, and then as the carriage travels, this flag is going to break the IR beam and stop it from going too far, a signal that it's reached the end. So I'm going to get back on here, put my nut, put my nylock, and I'm going to tighten it up with my socket wrench. Said I don't need this end really tight. In fact, I've added a spacer washer. You can't really see, but you can see that there's a little break in there because I don't know, but the M8 rod really doesn't flow nice and freely, so I'm going to back this out just a hair. Make sure that this side is kind of looser than it needs to be. There's my homemade opto end flag out of a pop can, so I can snip this end off if I need to and rewrap it with more painter's tape. Not a big deal. This should be the end of the X-axis carriage. Now, I've said that this is the last step on the X carriage probably about 3 times now, and it's not. This is my first time, so keep forgetting stuff. You need these 2 nondescript blocks with 2 holes in each. My set has 2 very similar ones. These happen to be the longer. It's got 2 pair of these, and the other pair is just slightly shorter. This is the longer pair you need, and they sit on the back here. Now I believe that this is what pinches the belt, the tooth belt, and you grip it. So I'm not going to tighten these all the way, but you do need 4 M4s by 40. Obviously you need a washer, and they go into these captive nut. You probably can't see them, but they're 1, 2, and then on the bottom 3 and 4. So it's washer, and again, I'm not going to put a washer inside the captive nut because obviously the cavity isn't shaped. Now these go in quite a ways. I don't know. I don't know if you're supposed to use 25 millimeters or what, but the bill of materials calls for 14 M40. So this is another one of those steps where the wiki, I don't know, maybe Oh, you know what? I didn't even put that piece on. Maybe now it's gotten, yeah, that's the right depth now, of course. What am I talking about? It's the perfect depth. When you add all the pieces, I'm sitting here blaming the wiki, but when you do it right, it kind of works. So I'm just going to hand tighten these again because I believe that I may need to loosen them later and add the belt in there. And you just do this times 4. Don't forget to add your other little brick onto this side when you go and add the other 3 screws.